Dragons have been featured in many fantasy stories for years, from The Hobbit to Game of Thrones, but where do these legendary beasts come from? Dragons, believed to be real for centuries, are the most well-known and influential of mythological creatures. It is possible to encounter dragon tales in many cultures, from America to Europe, from India to China. Dragons, which have a long and rich history in various forms, still continue to show up in books, movies, and TV series today, as intrepid heroes are constantly trying to kill them. It is not exactly clear when and where dragon stories first appeared, but depictions of giant flying snakes date back at least as far as the ancient Greeks and Sumerians. According to the book Dragons Penguin Classics, 2021, by Scott G. Bruce, in the ancient world, dragons were depicted as huge serpents ready to crush with their coiled bodies and kill with their poisonous breath. For many years, dragons were not much different from other legendary creatures, sometimes useful and protective, sometimes harmful and dangerous. However, this changed when Christianity began to spread. Dragons began to be interpreted as absolute bad luck and represented the devil. Many people in the Middle Ages knew about dragons through the Bible, so it's likely that most Christians believed dragons were real at the time. After all, the huge monster Leviathan, described in detail in chapter 41 of the Book of Job, resembled a dragon. Line scales tightly interlocked on its back, they are so close to each other that even air cannot pass between them. They quickly intertwine, they are interlocked and inseparable. His breathing radiates light, his eyes shine like dawn. Flames gush out from its mouth and sparks scatter. Smoke comes out of his nose like smoke from a boiling cauldron or burning reeds. He ignites coals with his breath and fire spews from his mouth. Belief in the existence of dragons was based on concrete evidence and not just legends, at least that's what people thought long ago. No one knew what the giant bones were, which were unearthed from time to time in different parts of the world for thousands of years, so people who had no knowledge of dinosaurs thought that these bones belonged to dragons. Different types of dragons. Although most people can easily imagine dragons, people's ideas and descriptions of dragons vary significantly. Some dragons have wings, some don't. While some dragons can talk or breathe fire, some cannot speak. While some are only a few meters long, some can stretch for kilometers. While some dragons live in palaces under the ocean, others can only live in caves and mountains like Smaug and J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. In folklorist Carol Rose's book, Giants, Monsters, and Dragons, an encyclopedia of folklore, legend, and myth, Norton, 2001, dragons are described as like an elephant in India, a lion, or a bird of prey in the Middle East, or a lot like snakes. It has composite features of many other animals, such as the head of many reptiles, he says. Their bodies could be green, red and black, or rarely yellow, blue, or white. Zoologist Carl Schucker, in his book Dragons, Natural History, Simon & Schuster, 1995, mentions that there is a wide variety of dragons, including giant snakes, hydras, gargoyles, and dragon gods, as well as unknown varieties such as basilisks, wyverns, and cockatrices. According to Schucker, this creature is essentially a chameleon whose features adapt to the cultural and literary expectations of the age. Dragons, How to Train Your Dragon. It continues to adorn the public's imagination in fantasy books and movies, appearing in many different places, from children's movies such as Game of Thrones and Hobbit to adult books such as Game of Thrones and The Hobbit. In the popular role-playing game Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, there are many types of dragons, each with their own unique character, power, and other characteristics. Who would have thought, for example, that black dragons love eels? Origin of dragons. According to Dean Miller, author of Mythical Creatures and Monsters, Cavendish Square Publishing, 2014, the word dragon comes from the ancient Greek word drakonta, meaning to watch, meaning a monster with huge piles of gold or jewels. It indicates that it protects such treasures. However, this explanation does not make much sense because a creature as powerful as a dragon does not need to act as a guard and pay a price for anything, right? Presumably this is more symbolic, a reward not for the dragon who likes to hoard treasure, but for brave warriors like King Arthur's knights who will defeat the evil beast. In mythology, dragons are one of the few creatures depicted as powerful and terrifying opponents that must be killed. These creatures, which do not exist only for themselves, generally appear as an obstacle that brave adventurers must overcome. Other mythical creatures, such as trolls, elves, and fairies, also interact with humans, sometimes insidiously, sometimes helpfully, but their primary role is not to fight like dragons. In the past, the Christian Church told legends of virtuous and divine saints who fought and defeated the devil in the form of a dragon. According to the English heritage site, the most famous of these was St. George, the dragon slayer, who one day found himself in a town threatened by a terrible dragon. He saved the young girl, protected himself with the sign of the cross, and killed the monster. Impressed by St. George's faith and courage, the townspeople immediately converted to Christianity. Defeating a dragon was not only important for an ambitious saint, knight, or hobbit, but according to legend it was also a way to raise an army. As Michael Page and Robert Ingpen noted in their book, The Encyclopedia of Things That Never Were, Viking Penguin, 1987, using dragon teeth was a fairly simple way for any country to expand its armed forces. This method was first applied by the Theban king Cadmos. In the first stage, a piece of land was prepared as if planting grain. Then any suitable dragon was captured, killed, and all its teeth removed. Teeth were planted in the prepared soil, covered lightly, and that area was avoided as much as possible. Sounds like child's play, right? Following this practice, senior warriors, clad in bronze armor and armed with swords and shields, quickly emerged from the ground in a row where the dragon's teeth were planted. However, apparently Draconis den Ada dragon tooth warriors were quite combative, quickly siding with each other if an enemy wasn't already present, so if you plan on doing this, make sure your enemies are somewhere nearby. Scientists think that the fire-breathing feature of dragons is based on medieval depictions of the entrance to hell, such as depictions of hell in the works of the Dutch painter Hieronymus Bosch. The gate of hell was often depicted as the mouth of a monster from which flames and smoke emerged, attributed to Hades. Therefore, if a person believed in the existence of hell, he also believed in the demonic existence of the dragon, a connection that makes perfect sense. Are dragons real? Medieval theology aside, only a very small number of people today believe that dragons actually exist, any more than one believes in the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot. Dragons, or at least the form Westerners are best familiar with, are too big and fantastical to be taken seriously and to be real. In this modern era of satellite imaging and recording features of smartphones, it is impossible for any gigantic, fire-breathing, winged creature not to be seen on land or in the air. However, only a few centuries ago, dragon rumors were confirmed by eyewitness accounts from sailors returning from Indonesia. In fact, sailors have seen the Komodo dragon, a type of giant lizard that can be up to 3 meters long and sometimes aggressive and deadly. As a possible similarity to dragons, it was previously believed that a Komodo dragon bite was fatal due to toxic bacteria in its mouth, but this rumor was disproved in 2013 by a research team at the University of Queensland. It has been discovered that the Komodo dragon's mouth is at least as normal as other carnivores. According to the Guardian newspaper, Western scientists only confirmed the existence of the Komodo dragon around 1910, following investigations by Lieutenant Jacques Carrel, Henri van Stein van Hensbroek, and Peter Owens. But rumors and stories of these fearsome beasts had spread long before that. One way or another, dragons have been in our minds for thousands of years. Thanks to the fantasy works of J.R.R. Tolkien and many other artists, dragons continue to capture our collective imagination and have no intention of disappearing completely.